Hello everyone, I'm here with Amy Beaulieu. Believe me, her surname was something that I really tried my luck with. And I'm grateful and I'm hopeful that it sounds perfect. Amy is this beautiful sunshine angel. Why do I call her sunshine angel? Because she's somebody who's helping not just corporates, but even personal, private, emotional, upheavals that you go through. She is a wonderful coach. And I would love to ask Amy her journey as to how did she become or how is she thriving as a coach today in this world. And
Hi,
thank
Dr.
you so
Kitty.
much for being part of my Sunshine Project.
And thank you for inviting me. I'm super happy to be here. As you know, I feel about you as my sunshine. So thank you. We'll be spreading sunshine together.
Yes.
Um, my journey that brought me to coaching was from being a young child. I knew I always wanted to help others. That was in my core. I started my career journey actually getting my social work degrees, both my bachelor's and my master's in social work. And I did a lot of victims work. So the therapy that I was providing were for people who were unfortunate enough to have been victims of crime, of course, many in their own homes, horrible abuse cases and such. I did that for many years and found that it was, although a very rewarding career emotionally, at the same time, emotionally, it was draining. And
Right.
I found myself longing to reach people on a broader scale and in a more uplifting environment with hopefully more positive outcomes. And so I fell in love with the learning and development avenue in corporate training. And lucky enough, I worked for several companies that put me through additional training, which allowed me to get my certificate in two different coaching models. And that's where I saw the blend of my therapy skills, knowing and understanding human behavior, and bringing that not only into my facilitation of classes, but now bringing that also to the coaching arena. And so there is a big difference between coaching and therapy, but the luck for me or the blessing for me is that that knowledge of human behavior that was my foundation for so many years allows me to help people overcome those typical human behaviors that detract from our quality of life. And that's where I've been the last, oh gosh, 8 years. I've been in the coaching arena rather than the therapy arena, and loving it.
Wow. I think people who come across you, I'm sure they're going to be touched and you're going to help them
Thank you.
immensely. But Amy, tell me about you. How do you thrive, emotionally? Because as you said, when you're constantly in this coaching background, you're constantly helping others. And sometimes as coaches, people forget to take care of themselves. I want to
Right.
know about, your emotional nourishment. What do you do for that?
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because I find in the coaching arena that is very often one of the prevalent problems for people is to find that balance between working on overdrive and then settling ourselves down. So, personally, I can speak for myself and my own experience. What really balances me out are several things. And I make sure to incorporate those things, not just daily, but making sure that if I didn't get it on a daily basis, I definitely get it on a weekly basis. So, in other words, the increments of self care can't stretch too far apart. So, a few things. One is at this point, especially with the COVID-19 quarantine restrictions, I find myself at my computer sitting a lot. So I actually program myself with a little timer to get up and move. Or even if I'm sitting in my chair, do some sort of movement. And it might be just upper body, but it's just enough to re energize and refocus. In a daily basis, for me, talking to somebody else so that you get out of the restrictions of quarantine, to balance the perspectives that we have in our head. So if we listen only to that critic in our head all day and we're alone with that all day, that's going to be taxing, and it's going to beat us up to the point of knocking us down.
Right.
So I make sure that I have external communications and balance my perspective with the rest of the world's perspective. And I have to say, at this point, especially, I'm not somebody who takes a balanced perspective by watching TV, especially the news. There is never, never, I will repeat, there has never been anything positive expressed on any news channel. I don't care if it's a Republican, news channel over here or a Democratic. The negativity of what crimes, who's hurt who's stolen from who, there's one thing called fleecing of America, where, the wool's been pulled over our eyes. There's all of these negative things that people intake, and I refuse to. My world has continued this way. I've started that habit at about 23 years old. I decided the news was not for me because of the negativity. And at that point in my career, I was a social worker, as I said, doing therapy with people who had lots of heavy, heavy problems. The last thing I wanted to do was end my workday coming home to watch more negative, heavy news. So that's been a self-care practice for decades for me. Something else that's important to me is movement, not just, like I said, during the day in my chair or standing up or pacing while I'm on a phone call, getting the walk in. It's actually getting out into Mother Nature for my exercise. So it's not about finding an online fitness course, although that's helpful too. On a rainy day, I do that. But it's finding a greenery, a park, a yard that I can admire the flowers. I live in New York City, and so finding that green space is hard. But we have a few gems tucked away between houses, between apartment buildings, and I flourish in those arenas of getting my balance through Mother Nature and exercise. And I think there's more to be said. The work that you're doing around getting a good night's sleep. Sleep is our foundation. We can't do anything good the next day when the foundation is crumbling. So for me, it's also practicing the art of forcing myself to go to bed and getting up with a routine. So go to bed with a routine of calming down and unwinding, and waking up with something that's refreshing. So for me, it's a balance of a little bit of reading time to calm down, clear the head from the day at night. And in the morning, it's getting up, getting in the shower, and then eating a good breakfast. So that's how I start my days and try to keep my balance, as you said, to thrive.
Wow, I think beautiful. I think you spoke so excellently. I think when it comes to nutrition, you're actually providing your body just that positive
Yeah,
content, giving the body that exercise, that space, not just for an hour, but actually, stretching yourself in between those,
yeah,
computer, and you have become like best buddies today, but we forget that our body is actually our best buddy. So
it's so
beautifully
true.
put. And I think the one thing that I love that you spoke is we balance ourselves by getting out in nature. So nature is actually such a beautiful balance that we are blessed with. And I
Yeah.
forgot to introduce you that you come from New York, because I think I feel so connected to you that I think
And I'll be clear, I think my love of nature actually came from my upbringing. So I actually grew up in a small town in northern Maine and moved city to city. Just New York's my latest city. And I've been here 8 years. So yeah, finding where those greenery spots are, it's an adventure for me. And that's actually another way that I've learned over the years that helps balance us is or recenters us is even just having just a glimpse throughout the day of an outdoor scene. You can actually trick the brain by looking at a photograph on the internet, You can trick the brain by having a picture of a window in front of your desk. But anything that gives you a glimpse of the outdoor world actually triggers the chemical, the hormone reactions in our bodies to soothe us and relax us. So, you know how they say fake it till you make it?
Right.
This is one of those. If you don't have a window that overlooks anything that's pleasant to your eye, make a window that's pleasant to your eye. Have it in front of your desk so that you can gaze off into that. For many years, I've remodeled since, but I had a picture. It was just a tiny little picture, and it was of the ocean, just the vast, vast ocean. But so tiny was one single woman on the beach. And I always just imagined that was me on the beach, soaking it all in. And she's just standing, and you can see she's just, appreciating the same view that I'm appreciating. So, yeah, it does work to trick the brain to calm us and give us a sense as if we have been outside.
Wow, I think I'm never going to forget this. Though I'm surrounded by nature, I'm blessed that I have a real sea right outside my window. But I think this is the first time I'm going to use fake it till you make it in the most beautiful way. Because today, it's like you find those beautiful, transition. If you don't get it,
Yeah.
create one. And I love the way you said it, that create, today a painting. You could just buy a painting and look at it.
Yes.
I love the fact that he said in that entire picture, you looked at that lovely tiny woman and you said that that's you. And I think what we are actually doing is visualizing, I think
Yes.
that's a
Yes.
beautiful takeaway for me as
Yes.
well. I'm never gonna forget.
Yes.
I'm gonna make sure I remember this.
Yeah. Over the years, I've studied because of teaching so many different courses for professional development and leadership development within companies. I studied a lot of different topics and avenues to help people get that balance. And putting ourselves in nature was certainly one. And finding ourselves in nature allows us to see how small we really are on this earth. And that's what shrinks our problems down in our brains. So when we are next to a mountain, we literally feel this big. Or when we're next to the vast ocean, we feel this big. And it literally shrinks those things that we had previously thought were overwhelming and so much larger than us. It shrinks those problems into the size that we are. And then you realize, I can do something about this. I can take steps to thwart this problem. Let me do something to reduce its impact on my life. And that's why nature, does what it does to us. It balances us out because it puts things in perspective, literally.
I love this. I think I always love nature, but I love the way you brought the whole thing out so beautifully well. I am loving this. Amy, if there is something like, you just spoke about being overwhelmed,
Yeah.
today, because of this whole new world that we are in today, um,
Yeah.
what would be, an advice or something that you would give somebody who feels, overwhelmed or can't deal with it either physically, emotionally, financially today?
Yeah.
What would be those two or three takeaway points that, somebody could apply right away?
Yeah. Yeah. I think anxiety is climbing, and part of the problem is we're all anxious at the same time, collectively as a globe. And that's a difficult thing because oftentimes when someone one faces anxiety, they're not facing anxiety at the same extreme level or at the same time as other people. In other words, usually we're like popcorn, like I have a good day and you have a bad day, and then right, and
Yeah.
we're at different levels of anxiety. And so, what I would say is make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who calm you, not people who rile you up. And so I call it limited exposure, and not about COVID at all, but limited exposure to negativity limited exposure to somebody who might handle their anxiety more, you know, less healthy than you, let's say. So in other words, they're higher strung. In other words, minimize your exposure to those people, maximize your exposure to those people who bring you a sense of control, who bring you a sense of security, who bring you a sense of calm, peace. So that's one takeaway I would highly recommend is watch who you're surrounding yourself with and the information they're inputting to you. Be cautious of that. Be careful with your time. The other thing I would say is don't look too far ahead because that's another cause and root cause of anxiety. So when we are looking 3 hours ahead, we're missing the moment that we're in that we actually have control over. So, in other words, if you're trying to balance a household of people who are quarantined, you're trying to balance cooking meals with working, you're trying to balance meetings between pet care, parent care, all of these things that are demanding of us, put your timeline in smaller increments. So 30 minutes. What can I do right here, right now? Don't look past the 30-minute mark. At most, stretch it to an hour. But what that will do is it'll bring you back to the place that you do have control. You only have control over the arena right here, right now. So give yourself, what can I do positively in the next 30 minutes? Is it that I should spend 30 minutes cooking a meal? Is it 30 minutes I should spend moving and exercising, stretching, breathing, meditating? What is it that I need right now? Is it 30 minutes toward a daunting project at work? Those bite-sized pieces actually help us take the bite, chew it up, and absorb it. You know, otherwise we're trying to eat an elephant in one mouthful, and that's impossible. So that's my second piece of advice is break your day into smaller increments so that you have much more managed time versus endless time that you feel overwhelmed by. Uh, I feel like I've spoken so much on so many self-care habits. I'm not sure of my third takeaway today, but it might just be simply as simple as getting support. So talk to a Dr. Kitty, talk to an Amy. Get somebody in your life that can help balance you out on a long-term basis. Um, you know, my company has a funny name. I called it Three Shoes Incorporated, and that's because that sometimes we wear the big shoes that we are trying to fill. Sometimes we're wearing those shoes that are too small for us, and we know we've outgrown them. Both of those reasons are reasons to talk to a coach or a professional who can help support you. And the third pair of shoes, as your coach, as your facilitator of learning, I want to get you into the third pair of shoes, which is to help you feel like $1,000,000. Those shoes that make you feel like $1,000,000. That's what I want to get you into. And that's I think the third piece is just make sure you're surrounding yourself with the right resources, professional resources to support your endeavors of self-care and well-being.
Wow, excellent, Amy. Thank you so much for sharing so much with us. But Amy, before we end this, I would love for you to share, what makes you this powerful, this positive as a person, right? Talk to, through your not journey just from like person's perspective, like the people that you interacted with. It could be some experiences, it could even be a book, it could be something that triggered this beautiful person within you.
Oh, well, thank you for the compliment. That's so heartwarming and touching. I think my journey of you know being positive. I think, I mean, I have to give credit to my mom because she's a very strong, positive outlook person, right? She maintains that outlook regardless. So I do think it must have stemmed from childhood messages she gave us. I also think the fact that I surrounded myself in a career to help people who were less fortunate than me helped me see where I needed to be grateful, that I had my physical health, I had my mental health, I had intellect to use. I had places where I felt empowered to make choices to do something good with my time. So all of these things I think morphed me into the woman I am today. So I don't want to say, surrounding yourself with negative things then promotes positivity, because I don't think that's for everybody. But where maybe this outlook comes from is a sense of gratitude. I can't help myself but to see an unfortunate circumstance. What's the silver lining? What am I learning from it? What positive can I bring from this, whether it's for myself or a group of people? And I think gratitude and a positive outlook have to be foundational to help us, navigate this tough world that we're in.
Wow, beautiful. I can totally agree when it comes to gratitude because, and I think that is why people, like you, Amy, as you said, look, we'll always look for that silver lining. And it's so beautifully put that, whatever is out there, when you really look for that silver lining, you don't even have to look for it at times when that becomes like your habit, like you
Exactly.
just see. And I think gratitude is like the foundation practice of information.
Yes.
And I think that is what got me close to you, the aspect of gratitude.
Yeah.
And is
Yes.
there anything, Amy, that you would want, to drop us, and anything, a giveaway, anything?
Say it again. Is there anything
I
else I
said,
want to add?
yeah, would you like to add something? It
Yes,
could
in
be,
fact, you reminded me. Um, there is a poem. Actually, I'm not even sure if it's a poem, but it's not rhyming as I recall it. But that's because certain phrases out of it are what have lived with me. I came across this saying, desiderata, Desiderata, desiderata. Look it up. It's famous. It said it's an unknown author, but boy, I wish I could give credit to this person or the multiple brains that put it together. There's one phrase in there that helped me from my 20s onward when I discovered this, and it says, never compare yourself to others, for there will always be greater and there will always be lesser. There will always be greater and there will always be lesser. And that just stuck with me, because when we do compare ourselves to others, we won't measure up, or we'll measure ourselves too highly. And so, it's that kind of getting your self-esteem, that phrase, I'm telling you, I won't tell you my age, but that's been with me for decades. It's one of those things that different phrases in it just speak to you depending on where you're at in life. And I keep pointing that way because it's out on my fridge. It's the same magnet I've had, I can't even tell you how many years. But it's a magnet of it on my fridge, and I read it pretty much once a week, and just pick it, something else speaks to me. But that sentence has always been the one that resonates most.
yeah, I think I relate to that because they always say that, when you read a book, something which is really amazing, you finish reading it, but when you read it again, it gives you something, which it didn't give you in the first. And I
Yeah,
think you spoke so beautifully well that you need to surround ourselves with, positive people, positive content,
I
positive,
love
fake it
I love
till
that you're
you make it.
framing it that way. Yes,
Yeah, because
on,
for me now, fake it till you make it is, putting up nature inside. If, today you're stuck indoors and there's nothing outside for you to look at,
yeah,
create it. Create that
yeah,
silver lining. And
yeah.
I think the base of it all is finding that silver lining with gratitude. And I have to say, Amy, big thank you. I'm sorry
Oh,
I'm
you're
not
welcome.
Bullior. I may have made a mistake with your surname. But thank you so
Fine.
much for waking up early and, doing this for me and
Fine.
to the world at large, for the person who really connects to this. I'm so grateful to you, Amy, for doing this and sharing so much of your wisdom out there.
Thank you.
Thank you for
I'm
being
appreciative.
Thank you for
Thank you.
being
I'm giving you a big, big
Oh,
hug, Dr.
thank
Kitty.
you so
Yes.
much.
So across the miles, feel that.
Wow.
And I so appreciate you for hosting this. And I look forward to many, many more Sunshine Angels to hear from and learn from. Thank you.
You are one, and I think I'm so grateful that this sunshine life gets to experience this beautiful sunshine angel, and I can see this beautiful sun rising, just
I know.
behind you.
It's
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 like
true.
a double focus or a double attention to that energy. Thank you so much, Amy, for doing this.